Hello everyone, this is Finance 101 Excel in Excel, and we are now in module number 5. In this module, we're going to be learning how to work with multiple worksheets and multiple workbooks. Now, when we combine data from different worksheets and we analyze it and display it in a separate worksheet, that's what we call consolidation, and that's going to be the main focus of this module. We're also going to learn how to apply custom format codes to specific cells if we want to display them in a certain way. For example, let's say that we want to display negative numbers in parentheses or with a negative sign in front of it, or maybe we want a red parentheses. So in order to achieve that, to achieve a certain result, we can apply custom format codes to those cells. We're also going to talk about custom cell styles in case we want to apply a particular font size or font type to specific cells again. Now, these features are very useful when we want to apply that specific format several times or repeatedly throughout our workbook. In this module, we're also going to construct a pie chart, which is something that we've learned in earlier modules. But in this one, we're going to learn additional formatting features that we can add to our pie chart. Now, let's take a look at the specific company and case that we're dealing with in this textbook project. M&S Provisions is a company that manages 3 food trucks. They offer a variety of food and drinks, and their management team wants to consolidate their expenses and projected expenses for the next couple of years. So as you can see in figure 5.1, this shows you the output that we're trying to achieve. Our workbook when we complete this project should look like this. And the management team wants us to have 3 separate worksheets, one for each food truck. As you can see them here in green, red, and yellow, with the expenses for 2020, the projected changes for 2021 and 2022, and the resulting expenses for those 2 years. We're also going to have a consolidated worksheet with the expenses both for 2020 and the projected 2 years for the 3 food trucks together, right? So the combined or consolidated expenses. And finally, another requirement of this textbook project is to create a pie chart with our 2020 consolidated expenses for the 3 food trucks. Now, before you get started, please be sure to check the requirements document on table 5.1. This document will tell you specifically what data will the company be providing you to calculate, to make your formulas, and to do your analysis, and also what are the specific requirements in this project. So what kind of chart we need, what we need to include in the chart, what calculations we need to display, etc. It is also a good idea to look at the sketch worksheet displayed in figure 5.2. This kind of gives you an overall idea of the structure of the worksheet that you're creating. So it's a really good starting point when it comes to creating a new worksheet. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. The first step in creating our workbook is to create the consolidated expenses worksheet. So let's go ahead and start to follow the instructions. We're going to start by applying a theme to our workbook, but we first want to zoom in to 120%. So if you click on the zoom in, zoom out button on the bottom right corner of your screen on the taskbar, just click on it and the plus sign a few times until you get to 120%. Then we're going to go to the page layout. And as you can see on the far left there, we have the themes icon. If I put my mouse over it, I see that my current theme is the office theme. If you click on the drop-down menu here, you could scroll down until you find the specific required theme, which is called Feather Theme. Now, recently, this Feather Theme has been eliminated from Office 365 or Excel 2019, which is the version that we need for this class. So I want to show you how to add that theme. So just open your browser and Google search for Feather Theme in Excel. And it should be the very first result. It says Feather Microsoft Templates for Office 365. So go ahead and open it. This will take you to this Feather theme in PowerPoint. But in Office, the themes apply to all their Office products, so Word, PowerPoint, Excel, etc. So go ahead and download it. Open the download. All right, there it is. If you get this yellow warning here, go ahead and enable editing, press on it, and then we're going to go to design on the main menu across the top, and here under themes, make sure that you click on that drop down menu to see all the different themes. We are currently in the feather theme, so we're gonna save it. So press save current theme at the bottom and choose the location where to save it. We're gonna save it in the downloads folder. So scroll all the way up until you find your downloads folder. Your location may look a little bit different than mine, so just search for that downloads folder. And under file name, we're going to name this feathered. All right, click on save. So remember that we have saved it on the downloads folder. I already have it, so I'm just gonna click on replace it, yes. You should just press save and it will save it to the downloads folder. All right, so now we're gonna go open Excel. Open your spreadsheet in Excel. And then under the page layout tab, go to themes, click on that drop down menu. And here we're going to look for browse for themes. And we're going to browse our computer and look for that downloads folder. All right, so when you find it, click on it. And here, if you have them sorted by date, it should be at the very top. Otherwise, go click on date modified here so that the most recent download shows up first. So select that feather theme, that file, open it. All right, and now if you hover your mouse over the themes icon, you should see current theme feather, right? So as you can see, the colors have changed, the font and effects have changed according to this particular theme. All right, next we're going to start formatting our worksheet. So we're going to play with the row heights and column widths to adjust them according to what it's required. Step 1 says drag the bottom boundary of the row heading 4 down until the row height is 51.75. Right, so row 4, I'm just going to select that row header and then I'm going to right click on it to adjust the row height. As I've shown many times before, you can try to play with that row height by dragging it down and achieve the desired height, or you can just manually enter it. I find that a lot easier, 51.75. All right, press OK. Then step 2 says drag the right boundary of column heading A to the right until the column width is 20.57. So right click on it, select column width and type 20.57, press OK. Step 3, click the heading for column B and then shift click. So we're gonna press shift and then click column G. Look what's this is gonna do. When I do that, it selects all the columns from B to G. So we're gonna adjust the column width for all of these columns at the same time. So right click on it, select column width, and we want to set this one to 13.57. So 13.57. Press OK. All right, there we go. And then it says click cell A1 to deselect those columns. All right. Now we're going to enter the titles, subtitles, and the row titles. So we're going to follow the steps to enter titles in cells A1 and A2. In cell A1, type M and S provisions. So M and S provisions. All right, and then we're going to click cell A2. And in cell A2, we want to type consolidated expenses worksheet. All right, consolidated expenses worksheet. All right, next we're going to go to cell A4. And here we want to type expense category. All right, press enter. In cells A5, we're going to enter the following expenses, different categories of expenses. So starting in cell A5, we want to enter payroll, then benefits, fuel, storage, event fees, always capitalize the first letter of each word, maintenance, advertising, and administrative. All right, and you may want to check, do a spell check just to make sure that you don't have any typos. We're now going to enter our column titles. So step 1 says select cell B4 and type 2020. Then we're going to enter the following column titles beginning in row 4. So notice that we have increased the height of this particular row, row 4, because some of these titles are going to be multi-line. So remember that to move on to the next line in a multi-line cell, you want to use Alt Enter. Right? So starting with row C, with row 4, cell C4 specifically, we're going to enter 2021, Alt Enter, projected, Alt Enter, percentage change. All right, there we go. Next, we're going to enter 2021. That's from cell D4. You can move down with the arrow right. Next, we want to enter 2022, Alt Enter, projected, Alt Enter, percentage change. Move to the arrow, move to the cell on your right. 2022, move to right, and then we want to enter average, Alt Enter, percentage changed. All right. Notice that that last one is changed past tense. All right, so make sure that they all look correct. Next, we're going to use our fill series to create a series of numbers. So select cell B5. And here we want to type the number 1. Then we're going to use Control and drag that cell. So select cell B4, press Control, and drag it down all the way to cell B12. All right, so notice what happened there. When I use the option Control and drag that fill handle, it increased those numbers by 1, right? It's an incremental series by 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Stop here for a second. I want to show you, I'm going to undo this. Don't do this. I just want to demonstrate something. If instead of pressing Control and then drag that fill handle, if I had just drag that fill handle down, look what Excel would do. It would just copy that number 1 down, all the way down. So by using that Control dragging down option, I am telling Excel to increment that series by the value of 1. Right? So I'm going to do it correct this time. Again, Control, and then drag it down all the way to B12. All right, so now it's correct again. So I'm meeting you where you were. All right, so next we want to select cell C5. And we're going to do the same here, create another series, but this time we want to type 3%. And we're going to be increasing this percentage specifically by 3.1%. So we're going to do it a little bit differently this time. So once you enter 3% in there, go ahead and display the Home tab if you're not there already. Then select the ranges C5 to C12. So C5 all the way to C12, that entire range of cells, right? Go to the Home tab, Editing Group, and we're going to click on the Fill icon. It looks like a folder with an arrow pointing down. So click on it, and we're going to select Series. And under the series, in the step value, right here, there's a value of 1. I'm going to delete that with the backspace. And we want to type 0.031, right? So 3.1% is 0.031. All right, click OK. And as you can see, it's selected it. I don't see decimal places. I see 3, 6, 9. So let's go to the number group and click on Increase Decimals. We're going to do it twice to get 2 decimal places. All right, so now our series is 3, 6.1, 9.2, etc. It's increasing by 3.1%. All right, perfect. Next, it says repeat the same steps 2, 3, and 4 to create a series starting with 4%. This time we're going to increase it by 2% on cells E5 to E12. So let's go to E5. We're going to enter the starting value of 4%. We're going to select this range of cells of E5 to E12, and we're going to repeat the steps, right? So go to the editing group in the home tab, click on fill, click on the drop down menu, select series, and then under step value, delete that one, and we want to do 2%, so 0.02, click OK. And then in the numbers group, we're going to increase the decimal places twice, so click on it twice, and we see that the series is 4, 6, 8, 10%, and so on, right? We're now going to use the today function to put a date in our worksheet, right, based on the system date in our computer. So in previous modules, we learned how to use the now function, which displays the date in our system and the time. In contrast, this today function only displays the date. All right, so let's follow the instructions. We're going to select cell G3, and we're going to type the equal sign and then type the word today, open parentheses, close parentheses, and then press enter. All right, so that would automatically give the date in our computer system. And next, we want to format this date. As you can see, we have a 4-digit year. We may want to use a different format. Now, why? Well, depending on the width of that column, you may get a lot of number symbols if the date format doesn't fit in it. So it's important to know how to format it. You can find a format that fits for that specific column width. So right click on it, and we're gonna click on Format Cells. Here, make sure that you're on the number tab, the first one, then select Date in that drop-down menu. And the instructions are telling us to use the 14-MAR for March-12. So just a 2-digit year. Okay, so scroll down until you find that desired date. There it is, 14-MAR-12 with dashes in between. Press OK. All right, so we have the date exactly as it is displayed in our project. Let's go ahead and move on to the next step, which is to start making some of our calculations. We're going to calculate our projected expenses given the formulas that are in the requires document, right? In the requirements document. So if we want to calculate the projected expenses for 2021, let's go ahead and select cell D5. That's where we have the projected expenses for 2021 in the first category, payroll, right? So the formula would be the expenses for the previous year, 2020. So that's cell B5 plus that same expense times the projected change in that expense, right? So B5 plus B5 times C5. That would be the formula. But I want to round this value to 2 decimal places. So in general, we're going to round all our projected expenses for 2021 and 2022 to 2 decimal places. And the average percentage change, since it's going to be a small number, we want to display 4 decimal places in that case. So in order to choose the number of places that we want to display, look what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a round function. So I clicked on cell right in front of cell B5 on my formula bar, right? So right after the equal sign. And I'm going to type the word round, open parentheses. All right, so now I have equals, round, open parentheses, my formula B5 plus B5 times C5. That formula is going to return a value, which is the projected expense in 2021. That's the first argument of the round function. And then I'm going to press comma. The second argument, as you can see there, is a number of digits to which we want to round this particular value to. So we want to round it to 2 decimal places, as I said. So enter the number 2, close parentheses, and press enter. All right, so we have 1.03 is our predicted expense for 2021. Next, we're just going to copy this formula down to the other categories of expenses. So click on that cell D5 and just use the fill handle, the bottom right corner, drag it down all the way to cell D12. All right, so make sure that those values match what we have on our sheet. I see the last one is 9.98, so it looks perfect. All right, next we're going to select cell F5. We're going to repeat this process for year 2022. So we're going to enter the entire function this time. Round equals sign, round, open parentheses. Our formula this time is cell D5, so the expense for 2021 plus that same expense times, now we want the 2022 projected percentage change. So cell E5, so D5 plus D5 times E5, comma, and we need the second argument. We want to round it to 2 decimal places. So enter the number 2, close parentheses, and then enter. All right, I can drag this formula down as well, but the instructions are asking me to complete column G, and then we're going to drag those formulas down so that we can do 2 columns at the same time. We can do this time because these 2 columns are adjacent, they're right next to each other, right? So select cell G5, and this time we're going to type equals round, open parentheses. Now here we have to enter a different formula. We want to calculate the average between 2021 and 2022. So I'm going to select C5 plus E5, right? So the 2021 projected change plus the 2022 projected change. I want to add these 2 things and then divide by 2. Now Excel uses the order of operations. So I'm going to have to put the addition of these 2 cells that I just typed in another set of parentheses to make sure that Excel does the sum first and then divides them by 2, right? An average is we add them up and we divide by the number of items that we have in that sum. So we have 2 values here, C5 and E5. I'm going to put those in parentheses and then divide it by 2. And I'm going to need an extra parentheses here for the round function, right? So my function is going to look like this. Round, open parentheses, C5 plus E5 divided by 2. Now in my formula bar, I can press comma. This time we want to round to 4 decimal places. So enter the value of 4. And now we can close that other parentheses. So that's closing the round function. All right, press enter. So make sure we get the right value, 0.035. That is correct. So this time I'm going to select these 2 cells that I just calculated, F5 and G5. Select the 2 cells, right? F5 and G5, as I said. And we can go ahead and drag that fill handle, so bottom right corner for the 2 cells together all the way to row 12. All right, quickly check your numbers. My last one on column F is 1178, and on column G is 0.2135. Perfect. Now, look how interesting here. I'm going to highlight this column G for a second. We gave instructions to Excel to round this to 4 decimal places. However, I see some numbers here, like the first one, 0.035, that only has 3 decimal places. Why is that happening, right? If my instructions were to round it to 4 decimal places, where there's a setting that's a default mode in Excel that if we have a 0 as the last digit in a number, Excel is just going to ignore it. So that number is 0.0350. There's a 0 in the 4th decimal place. Excel is not going to display it. We can't force it to display. We're going to change that setting later on. So next step 5, we're going to select cell B13. We're going to start adding up our columns this time. So on cell B13, we want to click on the auto sum button, which is in the home tab in the editing group. So right here, the one that looks like a big summation sign. So click on that auto sum, press sum, and Excel is going to suggest range B4 to B12, but instead we just want to select B5 to B12, right? That's where we have our numbers. We don't want to put that year 2020 in there. So we want to ignore cell B4. So I just selected with my mouse that range, all right? And now I can press enter. All right, now click on that cell. You see how this little trace error warning came up here. I'm gonna click on it and select ignore error on that menu, just to kind of get rid of that warning. So why did Excel give me that warning of a trace error? So what happened is that in general, when I use the auto sum function, Excel adds up all the numbers that are above the cell in which I'm entering that function. And in this case, we didn't want that cell before in that summation, right? We ignore that cell before with the year 2020. So Excel is just alerting me that I did something a little bit out of convention. So just make sure that that's exactly what I wanted. That's why I was able to just ignore that error. All right, next we're going to click on cell D13. We're going to do the same process. We're going to click on the auto sum function, sum, and we want to select cells D5 to D12. All right, press enter. Our total should be 4229. It looks good. And now we're going to repeat it for column F. So on column F, go ahead and press the auto sum function, select F5 to F12. Press enter, and the total should be 48.02. So it looks good. All right, so click on any empty cell to deselect those previous cells, and make sure that you save your work. File, save. All right, if it's your first time saving it, make sure that you put it in the desired folder. Remember where you save it. So next, we're going to start formatting our worksheet. We're going to start formatting the title and subtitles of our sheet using colors from the feather theme that we selected earlier. So step 1 says select the range A1 and A2 are title and subtitle, and click the cell styles button. So we want to go to the home tab. In the styles group, click on cell styles, and here we want to select the title style. All right, so that's our title style. Next, we're going to select cell A1, just the title, and we're going to change the font size to 20. So it's currently set at 18. Change it to 20. Select range A1 to G1. And we're going to click on merge and center. So that's in the alignment group in the home tab. Merge and center. Select cell A2 and change the font size to 16. So our subtitle is currently set to 18. We're going to change that to 16. Select the range A2 to G2, and we are going to merge and center. There we go. And now we're going to select the range A1 and A2. Click the fill color arrow. So this is in the font group, the one that looks like a little bucket pouring out paint. So click on that drop-down menu to select the specific color. We want blue, gray, accent 1. So that's going to be in column 5, row 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, row 1. And notice that when you put your mouse over it, it'll say the name. So make sure that it matches blue, gray, accent 1. All right, so that's the one we want. And then click the font color arrow. So right next to the fill color. And here we want to choose 10, accent 5, lighter 40%, which is column 9, row 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe that should be it. 10, accent 5, lighter 40%. All right, perfect. So next, we're going to format the column titles and the total row. We're going to be centering and underlining the column titles. Are also going to create a border on the total row. So select range B4 to G4 and click the center button in the alignment group. Control click cell A4. All right, so press Control and click A4. We're going to add that to our selection. A4. So Control A4, there we go. We're adding that to our selection. Then use the Sales Styles button in the Home tab group, Styles group. So select on Sales Styles, and we want to select heading 3. All right, perfect. Select the range A13 to G13. So the row with the totals, and use the total sales style. So let's go to the sales styles and select total, and then click on any empty cell to deselect the range. All right, so let's make sure that everything looks correct. Notice that earlier when I added A4 to that selection, I did it that way because I wanted to keep that cell A4 aligned to the left as opposed to all the other cells in that row that I want them to have centered, right? So that's why we had that particular step. All right, next we're gonna apply a format, specific format with a floating dollar sign. So select cell B5. So here we wanna apply, according to the requirements document, we wanna apply a dollar sign to the first row and also the totals. So we're gonna click on cell B5, and while holding control, we're gonna select non-adjacent cells. So we want D5, F5, and we also want B13, our totals, D13, and F13. Notice that I was pressing control the whole time. Now I can let go, and you can right click in any of those selected cells, and we're gonna click on format cells in that shortcut menu. Here we wanna make sure that we are on the number tab to display the number sheet, and under the category list we wanna select currency, and we want to make sure that we have the symbol, the dollar symbol. So if you don't have it, click on the drop down menu and make sure that you select the dollar sign. And we want to select the red $1,234.10 in the negative numbers list, so the last one, so the one with parentheses and in red. So that's going to give me a floating dollar sign, which means that the dollar sign will be displayed exactly to the left of the first digit, as opposed to a fixed dollar sign where there may be spaces in between the dollar sign and the first number. All right, so we're going to press OK. And select anywhere, click on an empty cell to deselect those previous cells. All right, next we're going to learn how to apply custom format codes. So when do you want to do this? Well, perhaps you want to format a certain cell and you can't really find the format that you need, that it's already pre-made in Excel. So you can create a new one. Now, when we use format codes, we're going to be using a code that will have 4 different parts. The first one will be for our positive numbers, the second one for our negative numbers, the third one is format on how we displayed our zeros, and the last one is formatting for any text that we may have in our cells. You don't have to have 4 parts. You may have only the first 2 if you only want to format your positive and negative numbers. And then by default, the zeros, if there's not a specific format displayed for the zeros, Excel will choose whichever format we chose for the positive numbers. So that's kind of the convention that we use for formatting, for applying format codes, right? Be sure to review table 5.5 so you can learn more about the different options when it comes to different format symbols and how we can combine them to create a custom format code. So our goal here is to create a format code that's going to display all our percentages with 2 decimal places to the right of the decimal point. And also we want any negative percentage to be displayed in magenta and in parentheses, and with 2 decimal places as well. So let's go ahead and press Control to select several ranges where we have all our percentages. So first we'll start with cell C5 to C12. Pressing Control, we want E5 to E12, still pressing Control, G5 to G12. All right, so those are all our percentages. Now right click on any of those selected cells. This will display the shortcut menu, select Format Cells. And here make sure that you're on the first number tab. Under the category list, select the last one, Custom. And then here under the type box, you'll have the word General. So go ahead and delete it with backspace. And here is where we're going to type our specific code to create this format, right? So as I mentioned earlier, in a format code, there are 4 parts. The first one is for our numbers that are positive. And here the instruction is to enter it as 0.00%. So all our positive percentages are going to be displayed with 2 decimal places. Next, we're going to enter or type semicolon. Semicolons will separate the 4 parts of our code. The second part is the format for any negative numbers. So we want to make sure that these ones are in magenta. So we're going to put the color in brackets, the square brackets. So open a square bracket, type the word magenta, close that square bracket, and then open parentheses, the round parentheses, 0.00%, and then close that round parentheses. Oops, there we go, close that round parentheses. So this second part, what's after the semicolon, is giving me the format for any negative numbers that we have in this particular cells. The third part of a code would be the format that we want for any zeros. If we omit it, we're going to take the format of the positive number. So if there are any zeros in the cells, they're going to be displayed just like our positive numbers. So it'll be 0.00%. All right, so let's go ahead and press OK. So this has applied that specific format. Notice that this format that we created will be listed now under format cells. If we go to that menu again, it will be listed at the bottom of the list. So let's go ahead and now apply the comma style to our expenses. So select the ranges B6. We want to omit that first row because we have a specific format for that first row. So we just want B6 to B12. We're going to press Control to select D6 to D12. Still pressing Control, F6 to F12. All right, we're going to right click. Oh, actually we don't need to right click. We can select the comma style from the number because it's in the shortcut. So this will be a lot faster. So in the numbers group in the home tab, just go to the comma style. There we go. And click on any empty cell to deselect that range. All right, our next step is to create a custom cell style. So how is this different from creating a format code? Format codes are more related to values, right? Positive values, negative values, zeros, etc. While a cell style is a specific format in terms of font size or font style, a border, even the cell protection that we may give to that specific cell, alignment, color, etc. So our goal here is to create a cell style that we're going to call a 4-digit year. We're going to apply it to cell G3 where we have entered our date. And we're going to make some modifications to the normal style, which is the default in Excel. But what we want to achieve is to create a date format that has a specific alignment format with also color in dark green, and it's going to be centered within that cell. So let's go ahead and click on the Cell Styles button in the Styles group. And here we want to select the New Cell Style option, second option from the bottom up. So we're going to create a new cell style. As you can see, there are 6 boxes here. They're all checked right now. And as you can probably observe here, these boxes are matching the 6 tabs that we have when we select format cells. So number, alignment, font, border, fill, and protection. Right? So those 6 boxes, as I said, match the tabs under format cells. Right, so in the style name box, we have style 1 typed in right now. We're going to change that to the name that we want to give this particular cell style. We're going to call it 4-digit year. So delete that and type 4-digit year, all in capitals, first letter of each word in capitals, right? All right, go ahead and press OK. Actually, we're going to select format here before we press OK, so we can make some changes to some of these options. So if necessary, click on the first tab, the number tab, and here in the date category, we want to select the one that says 14-MAR for March -2012. So we want a 4-digit year. All right, so scroll down in this list. And I believe it's the very last one. So 14 March 2012 with 4 digits for the year. So this format is called the DD-MMM because we have 3 letters for the month, -YYYY, 4 digits for the year. So select that one and then press OK. Next, we're going to go to the format again, and we're going to go to the alignment tab. This time under the horizontal option, in the horizontal box, we want to press on that drop down menu and we want to select center. All right, press OK. And then next we want to go to the font tab. So format, go to the font tab. And here we want to change the color. So in the color option here, it's set to black right now. Click on that drop down menu and we want to select green, specific green, green accent 6, darker 50%. So that's going to be on column 10, row 6. All right, so green accent 6, 50%, darker 50%. All right, there it is. So select it and press OK. All right, so we're back to this style dialog box where we have those 6 boxes checked. Our next step is to deselect the last 3 boxes. So click on border, fill, and locked. We're not going to play with those specific settings, right? We're just changing the number, the alignment, and the font tabs or boxes. Now we're going to press OK. All right, so we've created this new cell style. So now let's go ahead and apply it. Right, we want to apply it to cell G3. So click on cell G3, and that's our today function. And we're going to press the cell styles button in the styles group. And now, as you can see at the very top, we have that custom cell style that we just created called the 4-year digit. So click on it and it will apply it. So as you can see, our date now is in the format DD-MMM-YYYY, right? 2 digits for the date, 3 spaces for the month, and then 4 digits for the year. All right, and then our last step for this very first part of our textbook project will be to do a spell check to make sure that we don't have any typos on our sheet. So click on cell B2 to make sure that we start our spell check process from the top. Click the review tab and then go to spelling on the far left, and yes, it says spell check complete. You're good to go. It looks like I don't have any errors or typos. If you do, be sure to change them and then press OK. Go ahead and save your work, file, save, and I will see you in the next video with the second part of our textbook project.